Hello. Alright, I'm doing a little cleanup video where I'm just putting in some extra stuff, and you'll notice the title on this is Stump's Appendix. I'll get to that in a minute. I'll do this in editing and post, but I might start adding some intro and exit music. I got permission to do so. Notice he is only holding a syringe, he is not using a syringe. Must specify that. Anyway, I really liked this when it first came out in '94. Or there's a he redid a bunch of songs for the '98 version, and I might use those. I recently did a stream with a really cool guy named Dean James. He's the artist on, not Elysian Fields, The Embrace. And he did with me a bunch of unboxings, and I forgot to show for Michael Derrick's unboxing, this came, and he did the crow for me. So that's, like, awesome right there. Yeah, nice, thank you. And then these came with Pillowman and Blanket Boy, which I plan to review, so I'll show that off more. That's the sketch one, and I'll show that one later. And then I showed some books that I ordered from Starcross, and it turns out specific titles come with a card, and I hadn't unpacked everything where they fell out, and so yeah, that's really cool. I got trading cards with what I showed off before, so I forgot that bit. That's really neat. Also in Forgotten Bits, we showed that Shelby had signed one of the packages I got, and so I want artists out there to know, because I got to cut this out and keep it. I mentioned some guy's name who did a book called Something Real. It's about nightmares, and they did one, but I didn't drag it out for this. I had a couple other things prepared to show that were really cool, and then I'll get to Stump. Jason did this. Unhinged Entertainment did this, and I just want artists to know, it's like he just signed this, like this is just his little doodle, but this is still kind of cool. Like, that's the sort of stuff that is really neat. Now, going way beyond that, just a quick little doodle signature. A while ago, I ordered a book, like before I got on Twitter. You might notice the name right there. That's the guy who did, who's doing Confederate Monsters. I don't mean to create expectations, okay? So he probably just had some spare time on his hands, but he mailed it with this. So, yeah, when you artists want to just doodle something, we in your audience actually really value that stuff. So I keep this in the back of the bag and board where I keep this trade paperback. There's your message for artists. We do appreciate the little extra effort you put in, but it is not expected. When you just feel like doing it is the best time to do it. So I don't mean any pressure on Dave. Please, nobody pester him to do things like that. This was like from 2018 that he did that, I believe. So anyway, so I am going to now move over and touch on this book. This is why it's called Stump's Appendix. I unboxed this the other day on a stream, and I reviewed that before. And people really seem to like the review of this. At least they really like the book, and they appreciated my review. We'll keep it that way, stay humble a little bit. So I wanted to show that this book was previously in black and white. It was colored, but for pulling into grayscale to be printed. And then, like this panel, actually these two panels were split up and used on different pages. And so a lot of changes were made, a lot of changes. This panel I think was eliminated, and he's floating in space there. This panel was moved to a prologue that's told in flashbacks, but at the end of the book, this panel's reused. This panel was done away with completely. Oh, this is cool. My camera's like flashing on his face to say there's a face there. Neat. Anyway, so this panel was reused. This one was altered, I think. And it's interesting to see how much changed. This big blob of wording was reduced, and this page was almost unaltered. This page was altered quite a bit, etc. And so it goes. And that's just what happens with comics. So he did a good job with the new version, and I haven't finished reading the old version if I want to reread it. But there's that. So Stump's Appendix, which would be about right here. What's the big deal with it? Well, let's just show you a little bit more. To be honest, there was so much to say that, I didn't exactly get to everything. People enjoyed it, so I'm just going to show you a little bit more. No big deal. So on this one, I never got to the punchline. On this, I got to talking about lettering. So the gimmick is, notice the bookmarks. The gimmick was that tap, 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 somebody stuck under the rubble from the building he just smashed that he landed on. And as he's rescuing her, this is her down there. Oh man, I'm sorry, I have to use two lamps, otherwise it's too dark in here. But there's that, and the lettering is just, it's a great gag. Her balloon covers him up, and it says, "Oh my gosh, that is not the first thing I expected to see after getting rescued." So yeah, poor little old lady. So, anyway, one of the things that came up in discussion with people after my review was how many words there are on different pages. And when you actually read this, like, oh my gosh, that looks huge. Total violation of comic book standards. It's actually really not a big deal. Once you get into reading it, it's not a big deal. So one question should be, yeah, there are a lot of words on different pages, but does it work? And in some cases, it does. Where it works more, less so on this page. I mean, you get by on this page, it's not a big deal. This is just some guy's YouTube video, much like mine. But on other pages, follow the bookmarks. Where are we? Let's see. This. Oh yeah. Some of the very wordy pages, which this is not. They work because he structured this book really well in terms of you get through a chapter of the book and there's a natural break there. So then he tells you what is structurally a side story, but is really maybe backstory. They're all backstory, to be honest. And so in doing that, it ends up working really well. So here we get some origin story, but it breaks between chapters. So you get your less wordy pages, although you could call this wordy. Oh, I'm sorry about the glare. You could call this a bit wordy, but you get these breaks between chapters to go do something else with your mind, and kind of the side story ends there, and then you get back into present time. And that's why these things work. So I'll give you another example here. Is there anything I forgot to point out? No. Oh, and he also makes fun of things. So in my review, I pointed out that he uses thought balloons, but then later on, I don't want to grab the wrong bookmark. Is it this one? Which one comes first? Yeah, it's that one. So in this one, for example, we have him talking out loud, which we see, as a trope in lots of comics. Everybody thinks out loud and whatnot. Well, at the bottom here, he says, I wonder, and here's the villain over there, little old mad scientist. He says, I wonder if he even knows I'm here. And the villain says, of course I know it. Of course I do. You're not exactly being subtle about trespassing on my property. Wait, you can read my thoughts? No, you're talking to yourself. So he does make fun of the trope there, even if it's by accident. I think it's funny. And then here, on the next page, of course, villains are wordy as all get out, and so our hero, Stump, here is thinking, well, this guy sure likes to hear himself talk, and that's actually the balloon. So there are a lot of, I didn't point out in my main review the jokes that poke fun at what comic books do. I mentioned it, but I didn't actually read them to you. So there's that. And then again, structurally, we get through some chapters, we get through some action and other things, and then we get another side story between chapters. And so structurally that works before we go to cleaning up bits and a final flashback chapter. So this book is well broken into chapters, and that's the reason why some of these wordier passages, I mean really wordy passages like this, that's why they actually work, is they bridge between or separate between different chapters. This one acts as a bridge, others act as separators. So there's some leftover bits of Stump, kind of like an appendix, which would be right here. Alright, hey, thanks for joining me. I got other reviews coming up. I'm going to do one called Malevolent Rising and then a Superman book. Thanks for sticking with me. So I'm going to get down and film this as best I can. Alright, see you next time.